So open up the covered thing. Because every person has doubts in seeking the method to be free from confusion, today I will talk about the method and about the practices that I developed previously. Formerly, I learned many kinds of gumatana, meditation, lit. Working ground, such as inhale bud, exhale, do, and sitting cross-legged with eyes closed, all sorts of methods like that. I learned internal recitation of Sama Arahang. And I practiced the method of the rising and falling of the abdomen. This is also a method of inhalation and exhalation. And then I came to the method of breath counting, yet another practice of inhalation and exhalation. Then I came to practice anapanasati, awareness of in and out breaths, knowing the short inhalation and the short exhalation, and also knowing the long inhalation and the long exhalation. These kinds of methods that I practiced, I didn't have any insight. These kinds of methods lead to calmness, but it was a different kind of calmness that I was seeking. Most people are seeking calmness, but the sitting calmness is the calmness that is not calm. So I continued my seeking to encounter the truth. Truth is the reality that is latent in everybody, regardless of nationality, language, or uniform. What is latent in everybody is what I was seeking, until I found it and could see it clearly, could understand it clearly. That is the real calmness. There are two kinds of calmness. The calmness that is not knowing needs to sit quietly and to sit alone. That is not real calmness. The calmness that I am going to tell you about today is the calmness that we don't have to seek. Why don't we have to seek it? Because we know the end of dukkha, suffering. This is called calmness. And we don't have to learn from anyone else anymore. Now, everybody, please listen carefully. First, the method that led me to find real calmness. Without paying any special attention to any point, I just do the movement, and just have sati, awareness, knowing all postures and all movements, such as standing, walking, sitting, lying, bending, stretching, and all the movements. When I have practiced in this way, and have awareness of all my movements, panya, knowing, arises within myself. Aware of myself, not others, I know rup, body, I know nam, mind, I know the disease of rup, I know the disease of nam. There are two kinds of rup disease, nam disease. Disease in the body, such as headache or stomachache. With this kind of disease we have to go to the hospital to see the doctor. The doctor will check the body and the cause of the disease, and, knowing the nature of the disease, can apply the medicine that cures it. Then we recover. Another kind of disease is when the mind thinks and we are content or discontent, glad or sad. This kind of disease cannot be cured by the doctor in the hospital, but you have to study yourself until you know the source of thought. To cure this kind of disease you have to study yourself until you really know. When I know the source of thought, I have found calmness, but only a small amount of calmness arises. The real calmness is when we can cease to seek, when we don't have to run around to find anyone else. That is called calmness. I continue to do more awareness of myself, panya rises, and I know dukkang, anajang, anatta, suffering, impermanence, not self, and I know samyati, supposition. Whatever supposition exists in the world, know it completely, know it to the end, know it to the whole, and know everything that is in the world. What supposition is called samyati paniyati, convention of supposing, paramathapaniyati, convention of the touchable, athapaniyati, the deep meaning of the Dhamma, and ariyapaniyati, agreement between those that have become Dhamma. We have to really know these four conventions completely, really know them to the end, and really know them to the whole. After I know samyati completely, I know sasana, religion, I know papa, sin, I know punya, merit, I really know these things. Usually we attach to samyati, such as we attach to Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, or Islam. These things are only samyati. The real religion is everyone. Buddha Sasana, Buddhism, is Satapanya, awareness knowing, which is in everybody. I can assure you on this point. When I know myself, I know everyone is like myself, because everyone can know. Now I will talk more about Hapapa. Hapapa is when one doesn't know oneself. The most Hapapa in the world is any person who doesn't know her, or himself. Hapunya is somebody that is self-aware. If you are aware of yourself, you are one that has Hapunya, and are capable of really making yourself a noble individual, Ariya Pugala. This is called calmness. To be aware of oneself doesn't mean that we are aware that we are male or female, we are Mr. A or Mr. B, but to be aware of oneself is to have sati in every moment. Whatever movement the body makes, we are aware of it. Whatever the mind thinks, we are aware of it. This awareness really arises from the law of nature. When thought arises, we see it, know it, and understand it. When we see it, thought stops by itself. When thought stops, Hapanya arises, and we know the source of dosa, moha, lopa, anger, delusion, greed. We know that dosa, moha, lopa is not in ourself. Whenever we cannot see our own life, cannot see our own mind, in that moment we are unaware of ourself, we forget ourself. When we are unaware of ourself, dosa, moha, lopa arises. When it arises, we suffer. Everybody hates dukkha, but we don't know dukkha, so we seek calmness. Therefore we cannot have calmness just by sitting. That is not the way to calmness. The calmness that I mean is the calmness of freedom from dosa, freedom from moha, freedom from lopa, and this kind of calmness is in everybody without exception. Knowing this, I can guarantee that every person can attain this calmness. Whatever nationality, language, or religion, whether you are a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Christian, a Muslim, or whatever religion, you can learn yourself, because everyone has body-mind. All of you sitting here now and listening to my talk, the mind of everyone is like this. Our life mind is already clean, illuminated and calm, but when we say that the mind is clean, illuminated and calm, we just imitate the words of others, we don't really see it. When we really see it, we will be able to guarantee that it is already there in everybody and that anybody, if they really practice, they must know it, they must see it, and they must have it. When we know it and see it, we can guarantee that this teaching can apply to everybody in any social class and of any age. A millionaire can practice, somebody who doesn't even have one coin can practice. An educated person with many degrees can practice, the illiterate can also practice. I can really guarantee this point, but we have to know the correct method, and see into our mind. Now, all of you listening to my talk, just look into your own mind, and you will know the characteristic of the mind. Here is a parallel. The seed of any kind of fruit, if we plant it in well-watered soil, under good conditions, it will have issue. An ordinary rice or sticky rice or whatever kind of grain we plant, it too will have issue and grow up. This is like every person. If you listen, and understand it, and bring it into practice, you will know. When we don't know and we don't understand, it is like the thin grain, or the husk without any grain inside. When we plant it in the paddy field, it has no shoot, it doesn't grow up. This is the same as when people who come to teach don't really know themselves, they teach others, so other people do not know. I will raise another parallel. Suppose that during daytime the sunlight is dull, but actually the sun is always bright. Our mind is like the sun, it is clean, illuminated and calm, like the sun all the time. But whenever we lose our way from the source of our life mind, we will not see where Buddha is, we will not know where Buddhism is, and we will not see where calmness is. When we don't know, we seek teachers, but that is for somebody who doesn't know. If you want to have calmness, or Buddha, you don't have to do many things. Just come to see the source of your own life. When thought arises, don't enter into the thought, but cut away the thought and come out of the thought immediately. Do it like the cat and rat. When the rat emerges, the cat pounces upon it immediately. The thought is the same. When it thinks, sati or panya will know immediately, thought is stopped. Do it often in this manner. Or it is like boxers. When we face the fighter we have to fight, we punch to the eyes. The fighter will not be able to fight us. Dosa, moha, lopa is the same. When we come to this point, Buddha will arise within ourself. Buddha is the mind that is clean, the mind that is illuminated, and the mind that is calm. Each of us, we are not angry for 24 hours, we are not greedy for 24 hours, but only moha, we do not know it. When we come to know this point, we will know more and more. Panya will arise and arise. It is like pouring water into a bottle. The water in the bottle will come up to the brim. When it is full to the brim, we cannot put anything in it. Sati, samadhi, panya, awareness, setting up the mind, knowing, is the same thing. This can be called calmness in Buddhism, or it can be calmness in Christianity, or we can call it whatever we like. Truth is in everybody. When one knows it, one can live in the world without any dukkha, one can do any work without dukkha. Whether one is a teacher or merchant or parent or worker, only when one knows the method of practice, when one comes to the end it will decrease by itself. It is like a leech attached to our skin. We don't have to force, to tear it out, but just bring some lime and tobacco leaf mixed with water, squeeze it onto the leech, and the leech will detach by itself. When we come to know this point we will have no doubt, and we don't need to seek any more teachers. We will know that the end of dukkha is here. Today I have talked about truth, appropriate to the time. I will finish talking now. Anyone that has any questions, feel free to ask. Audience. Why are people neurotic? Luangpor. Because we think a lot and we never see thought. We only see outside ourselves, that this person is rich, that person poor, this person beautiful, that person not beautiful, somebody who has a car only sees their car, somebody who has jewels only sees jewels, somebody with a watch only sees their watch. They never see their own life, their own mind. This is moha, delusion. To see our own mind clearly, without trying to do anything with or about it, simply seeing it and letting it go, this is the way to freedom from dukkha, freedom from all neurosis. So we should develop sati. Develop means to make much of it. As sati grows, its ability to penetrate into and reveal the mind also grows. If we only practice keeping the precepts or doing calmness meditation, it is still not safe. It is like lighting a candle in a dark cave. The darkness shrinks a little but is still there with us, we are still in the dark, and when the candle goes out the darkness immediately covers everything again. So we should emerge from the cave by having sati all the time, in every movement. This is an easy method. Anyone can do it, and it can be practiced everywhere. Audience. When we see thought and the source of thought, will suffering and all kinds of tension end or not? Luangpor. Not end yet, because we only know it but we still do not do anything with it. We only know and see thought, we only know the source of thought, but sometimes we lose the way of it. For example, each day we may know it 10 times, but the not knowing is more. So it is not the end. But it is the beginning of destroying moha in the source of thought. Audience. I would like to ask, during Luangpor's practice, before coming to the end, was there any point where you had doubt arising, and was there any sign that released you from the doubt whether there was any more moha or not? Luangpor. It has a sign, but not a physical sign. The sign is that you see yourself and you have no moha. It is as if an overturned bowl had been set aright. Or it is like uncovering something that has been covered over and hidden. Only anyone that comes to this point will know it, and will immediately have no doubt. We don't have to talk about dosa, moha, lopa, because it is quite common, it is a shallow matter. When we talk about seeing thought, most people know thought but they do not see thought. When we know thought, thought will still continue, and we lose our way in the continuity of thought. We have moha in thought, then dosa, moha, lopa comes at this point. So this is why a person who knows thought still has dosa, moha, lopa. Audience. In seeing the thought, does the mind talk inside? Luangpor. No, not the mind talking inside. When we see it, it is detached. It is like the leech. When we know thought, it is like trying to pull the leech out of the skin. But when we really see it, we don't have to force the leech, but only put tobacco leaf and lime mixed with water onto the leech, and the leech will detach by itself. So if we really know, we don't have to listen to anybody. It is like we are sitting here now, we don't have any dosa or lopa, and we only have moha, because we do not see our life. When we see and know our own life all the time, dosa, moha, lopa cannot arise. So our mind is clean, our life is not dirty, there is no external sign, people cannot see, but we know and see ourselves. Audience. Luangpor says that when we see thought, thought will stop immediately. I am not sure about this. If it is true, I would like to ask, when we see thought and thought stops, do we know what the next thought is? Luangpor. Don't pay attention to the next thought. Only see the thought, it will stop by itself. Don't pay attention to where the thought comes from. When we see it, dosa, moha, lopa cannot arise. Audience. Luangpor teaches to see thought. Who is the one seeing the thought? Luangpor. Don't seek the subject, and we will see that one is the refuge of oneself. And that is the real refuge. We can either say the person knows, or we can say that Satapanya knows, whatever we may say, because there is no self that we can catch and take a look at. Because to see and to know are two different things. To know is entering into thought, and thought continues. Audience. I have listened to Luangpor, and have the feeling that thoughts, and emotions like gladness and sadness, are something external. They are like rice and curry, which we can make use of, we can eat them, and we can see them. But when these things arise in us, we cannot see them, either thoughts or emotions. This is not a question, but I would like Luangpor to make it clear. Luangpor. To see thought is one thing, to know thought is another thing. When we see thought, we can detach from thought. When we know thought, we still attach to thought. So knowing thought is the knowledge that belongs to avidya, not knowing, the knowledge of a person who has no panya. But with the knowledge of one that has panya, to know and to see can be separated. It is vidya, knowing, or panya. Panya and vidya will separate thought apart, and that is the end of dukkha. So one that has panya knows like this. But I can assure you that all of you here can do it. Please try it yourself. Just to listen you cannot know it. It is only memorizing. If we practice it, we will come to see clearly, to know really. This is our own knowledge, so it is called buddho, which means to see, or to detach. Audience. When we know truth, and we know it clearly, is there any guarantee that, after knowing the knowledge will not disappear again? When we know, do we know for good, or can it disappear? Luangpor. It is something inside us. It does not disappear. Suppose we know our eyes. We have our eyes all the time. This is the symbol that everyone has it and can teach it to others. I can assure you that all of you here, practicing this method, will not take longer than 3 years to know. Audience. Luangpor, would you please give a blessing to all those here? Luangpor. When a monk gives people the moral precepts and a blessing, that is one kind of goodness, but the real morality and real blessing is alertness and awareness of yourself. Please, each of you, practice the awareness wherever you are, at home or the office, in all movements, and that will become the real morality, the real blessing. The real morality, the real blessing will occur when you know, you see, and you understand by yourself, and when you respect yourself. Then it will not rain hard on that. Today is an important day, that we gather to listen to my talk on truth. What I am going to talk about is what I experienced. I have practiced it, and the result it has given me is that I have no doubts. All of you here want no dukkha, suffering, like myself I suppose. In reality, in actuality, there is no dukkha, we suffer only because we don't know it. All of you listening to my talk right now have no dosa, anger, no lopa, greed, and no moha, delusion. The origin of the mind of human beings in every nation and of every language is as such. Please set up the mind to listen, and bring it into practice. First of all, we have to practice awareness. Most people do not understand, so they try to find calmness, but without success. I did that also. I sought calmness, but I didn't know where calmness was. Now I would like to talk about another kind of calmness. The calmness of freedom from not knowing, because we know and because we are alert. The calmness of freedom from uncalm, of freedom from doubt, because when we practice the correct method of awareness we will know the supposition of everything there is in the world, because the awareness of ourself will bring panya, knowing. There are 4 kinds of panya, knowing by memorizing, knowing by recognizing, clearly knowing, and really knowing. And all these panya are in every person. Sajja means truth. There are 4 levels of knowing Dhamma, to know Samyati Sajja, conventional truth, Paramatha Sajja, directly contacted truth, Atha Sajja, the deep truth, and Ariya Sajja, the fundamentally transforming truth. And this can make anybody become a noble individual, regardless of social class or language. The first step is Sotapanya, the second step, Sakadagami, the third step, Anagami, and the fourth step, Arahant, the 4 stages in the change from being hopelessly deceived to fully freed. Now in the beginning stage of practice, we know Vatu, thingness, we know Paramatha, mind touchable, we know Akara, change in Jess. The mind will change to be Ariya, noble, because we have clearly seen the source of dosa, moha, lopa, anger, delusion, greed, and then clearly known the source of Vedana, sunya, sankhara, vijnana, feeling, percept, conceiving, knowingness. This is called to clearly know and to really know with jnana-panya, the knowledge of full awareness knowing, that arises from the developing of sati, awareness. Next, we use sati to see the mind, panya will arise, and we will know the source of kilesa, defilement, stickiness, tanha, craving, heaviness, upadana, attachment, and kama, action. Next, use sati to see the mind again, whatever thought arises see it immediately, and we will know the deception, know in time, know the protection and know the cure. We will know how to conquer conceptual thought. Sila, moral conduct, will occur within our own mind. It is not the person who observes sila, but sila observes the person. Sila means normality. Whenever the mind thinks abnormally we see the thought immediately, this is called sila observing us. People who only keep the precepts will not know this mind's occurrence. So sila is a tool to get rid of crude kilesa, to destroy dosa, moha, lopa, to destroy kilesa, tanha, and upadana. Then sila appears. Samadhi, steadiness of the mind, setting up the mind, is the tool to get rid of the median kilesa. Median kilesa is the attachment to calmness. I have done breathing meditation, which brings calmness, but it is the kind of calmness dependent upon moha. I did that because I didn't know the real calmness at that time. Now I know calmness. Real calmness is clearly seeing, really knowing, and really understanding. This kind of calmness, everyone can do it when they know the source of moha. Whether you are a teacher, student, merchant, or homemaker, you can do it. Everybody needs calmness, and this kind of calmness, whatever kind of work you do, you still have it, because you know the source of moha. We don't have to sit with eyes closed to get calmness, but we can have calmness in this very society. Whenever conceiving thought arises, samadhi will see it immediately. Samadhi doesn't mean to sit with eyes closed. Samadhi means setting up the mind to see our own mind, to see our own work. Now Panya gets rid of the subtle kilesa. We know the subtle kilesa when we know the source of thought whenever it arises. Whatever we do now, we have normality in speech and mind. When all these conditions gather, there will arise a kind of jnana, insight knowledge, and it will break apart from the person. Only the one that practices will know. All of you sitting here now have as yet no jnana, but the non-suffering and non-happiness is already there. When we don't have jnana, we don't know it, so we seek calmness. Now, as you are sitting here, look at your own mind. You don't have jealousy, ill will, and aggression. Now your mind is indifferent, not suffering and not happy, beyond good and evil. This state is in everybody, and this is the calmness that everyone is seeking. Somebody who doesn't know comes to teach people. A lot of people follow that person and sit with eyes closed, trying to find calmness. This is trying to get something that doesn't really exist, trying to make something that cannot be real become real. It is impossible. So that is only the state of delusion. Now we come to know the real thing. It is called upekha, indifference, equanimity. It is our own mind. It is like something that is covered over. Now, when we come to see our own mind, it will be revealed. So we don't have to do anything with calmness, because it is already there. The only thing we have to do is know the method of practice. The method of practice is to know the movements of the body. We don't have to watch the movements of our breathing, we have to know the movements of the physical body and then see the movement of the mind. Breathing is never glad or sad, it never hates anybody or likes anybody. What is angry is the mind that is thinking. What is pleased is also the mind that is thinking. So we come to see only this point. To see this point is to be aware of thought. In order to see thought, don't enter thought. As soon as it thinks, detach from thought, like a cat catching a rat. We don't have to teach the cat to catch rats, but whenever a rat comes the cat will get it. The clear knowing and real knowing is the same thing. Most people understand Panya only as memorizing and recognizing. Very few know clearly and know really. Anyone that will clearly know and really know must make an effort always. Wherever they go they always watch thought, going to the toilet, eating food, whatever they do they look at thought. When we watch thought a lot, like a cat watching for rats, then when thought arises sati or panya will clearly see immediately. This is called panya, getting rid of the subtle kilesa. When we come to this point it is like the hidden thing is revealed, and we will know all religion, we will see with self-understanding the teaching of any religion. We will understand Hinduism or Christianity. We don't understand now because we just memorize from the texts. That is only a kind of history. Now we come to study at ourselves. Reality is in us. Texts are only the words of other people. We come to see our own mind, and we will be another knowing individual. I will stop now. Anyone that has questions can ask. Audience. Luangpor teaches that when we go to the toilet we also watch thought. Shall we watch our walking, or shall we watch thought, or what shall we watch? Luangpor. Thought arises even when we do not pay attention to it. So when it arises we will see it, we will know it, we will understand it. If we pay too much attention trying to see it, it will not think. So we should practice in an indifferent, detached way. When it thinks we will know. Samadhi is also awareness. When you are aware of yourself, that is samadhi. When it thinks and you see thought, that is samadhi. Audience. When I sit I can watch the thought, but when I walk to the toilet and intend to see the thought, when thought arises should I stop walking and see the thought or what should I do? Luangpor. You don't have to stop walking, just be aware of yourself. When we are aware of ourself, that is samadhi. Whatever movement we make we will know it. Unintended thought will arise by itself. If we do not see it we will attach to it, and this is dukkha. So we come to know the cause of dukkha. Normally our mind is indifferent. It can think without dukkha, and we know that it thinks without dukkha, but when we do not see thought we follow thought, we enter the cave, and that is dukkha. To see thought is difficult for somebody who doesn't understand, but it is easy for one that understands. To see thought doesn't concern any kind of work. We can write and when thought arises we see it. When we walk to the bathroom, or when we are bathing, and it thinks, we just see it. So we don't have to do anything with calmness, because calmness is already there. The real calmness is when we see thought. Audience. So we don't have to stop thinking. Luangpor. Right. Just watch the movement of the mind. Don't force the mind not to think, don't try to prevent or force the mind not to think, don't try to prevent or get rid of thought. Many people want to tranquilize the mind, they don't want the mind to think. That is the understanding of others. But in my view we should let the mind think. The more it thinks the more we know. It is like when we dig a new well, the water is at first full of dirt. So we have to empty out the water, bucketful after bucketful. We don't have to stop up the hole out of which the water is flowing, but we let the water flow, as much water as possible, and we continue emptying out the dirty water. We clean the edge of the well and continue emptying out the water. We do it again and again. We do it until all the dirt is gone and the water flowing out of the hole is clear and pure. If anything were now to fall into the well we should see it and know it immediately. So we don't have to stop the mind from thinking. Sometimes it thinks this, sometimes it thinks that, but we just see it immediately, like cat catching rat, and the more it thinks the more we empty it out. When thought arises we see it, that is the important thing. Audience. When we sleep and when we are awake, do we watch thought in the same way? Luangpor. The same. When we cannot see thought, when thought arises during the day we don't know it. At night when we dream, we also don't know it. Now, when we see thought wherever we go, when thought arises we know it. At night we sleep, and when it thinks we also know it. Audience. I am still puzzled. Should we see thought or should we see ourselves? Luangpor. They are the same. We can call it seeing thought, and we are also aware of ourself at the same time. Audience. I would like Luangpor to explain the difference between knowing thought and seeing thought. Luangpor. When we know thought we enter into thought, and thought still continues, it doesn't stop. But when we see thought, when thought arises it stops immediately. So we should practice often to see thought. There will arise yana banyat. Do it like boxers. Every boxer wants to be world champion. Boxers need to be very quick. Dosa, moha, lopa is quick in one way, sati, samadhi, banya is quick in another way. When we train sati samadhi banya, to be very very quick, it will be world champion, it will conquer the world. This conscious body is the world. Do we want dosa, moha, lopa, or sati, samadhi, panya, to rule the world? If dosa, moha, lopa rules the world, it is a world of endless sorrow, endless dukkha. If sati, samadhi, panya, rules the world, it is a world of radiance and peace. Audience. When we watch our movements and thought arises, how can we know it? Luangpor. If you want to know, you have to practice yourself. Audience. Is discovery of calmness the same as discovery of oneself? Luangpor. Yes. Audience. If we can find calmness within ourselves, how can we keep it with us all the time? Luangpor. It is there all the time. What is not there all the time is not calmness. Audience. People have kamma and kamma disturbs us. So how can we be calm? Luangpor. No, not in that way. We just think ourselves. Kamma just means action, not those kinds of kamma that you did in the previous life. Audience. If we don't think about kamma, then there is no kamma, is there? Luangpor. Right, we don't have to think of it. Audience. People are seeking the same thing, but why are there so many thoughts? Luangpor. Because there are many different teachings, many books, much talking, so all are mixed up, and this causes suffering. This way of calmness doesn't concern studying books. It doesn't concern anything. When we read many books, or listen to many teachers, we only have knowledge for talking, so we don't have the experience of the real calmness. Audience. How can it be there all the time? Luangpor. If we add colored dye to water, people say that the water is red, or the water is black, or whatever color it is. But in reality water is colorless, and if what is not water is removed then we see it. Upekha is the mind's natural state. It is present in everybody without exception. When somebody becomes very angry, upekha anchors that person just like a ship's anchor and therefore they don't die of shock. When somebody becomes very greedy and would like to take a great deal away from others, upekha is like a ball and chain, holding back and moderating the greed, so that it doesn't totally unbalance that person. So upekha is already there, we don't have to seek it. It is like the sun when it is hidden by clouds. Dosa, moha, lopa, when it arises, obscures upekha. But when we clearly see our mind, upekha is uncovered. Audience. Luangpor said that gladness and sadness are the same thing. How can they be the same? Luangpor. They are dukkha. Gladness is one kind of dukkha, sadness is another kind of dukkha. Unknowing people live with dukkha, eat with dukkha, walk and stand and sit with dukkha, sleep with dukkha, wherever they go they bring dukkha along. When they see a movie they laugh, laughter is a form of dukkha. When they meet with sadness they cry, crying is a form of dukkha. Gladness and sadness, both of them are forms of dukkha. Just so, I imagine that there are two kinds of darkness, white darkness and black darkness. When we earn a lot of money we are glad. That is dukkha. It is the white darkness. When we lose money we are sad and the mind thinks angry thoughts. This is also dukkha. It is the black darkness. But both are dukkha. Audience. In reality there is no gladness or sadness, they just arise from moha, don't they? Luangpor. Just like that. Audience. Luangpor said that all kinds of gladness are dukkha. Is there some kind of gladness that is not dukkha, for example love between husband and wife? Luangpor. All are dukkha. Audience. How about gladness in Dhamma, or sometimes when we look at the sunshine we feel happy? Luangpor. That is not dukkha, not suffering or happiness, not gladness or sadness. It is indifference, equanimity. Audience. I would like Luangpor to explain the thing that is called love. For example, a woman and man who are going to get married. Luangpor. Somebody who doesn't know dukkha will approach dukkha, and dukkha will teach its lesson. Audience. When we see thought, it stops. So during which time do we see the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, and anatta? Do we see them when we see thought, or before seeing thought, or when we think of them? Luangpor. When we think of them, that is not seeing with jnana-panya, it is just memorizing or recognizing. After we clearly know and really know, we don't have to ask anyone. Audience. How about the intention to do something? Suppose that somebody says something bad to us, and we have the intention to harm them. Luangpor. To harm is stupid. When we know the states of suffering and of happiness, we do not want anybody to suffer. We will help all to live without dukkha. Audience. When I am going to give money to beggar, I know my thought, which is to give money. To see that thought, is that called panya? Luangpor. That is not called panya, it is called knowing from memory. All of us have mind, so before doing or saying anything, just look at our mind. Our real mind or real life doesn't hate anybody and doesn't love anybody. When we hate or we love, that is kilesa arising. So just come to see the mind at the beginning, and dosa, moha, lopa will be destroyed. After that, vedana, sunya, sankhara, vijnana, will still be there, but they are pure and have no dukkha. Continue to see the mind. We will see kilesa. Kilesa is like gladness and sadness. When we like something and we give it to somebody, it isn't that this is not kilesa, because we like the person that we give it to, we give it with kilesa, we don't give with indifference. Pra, venerable, noble, is indifference. Pra means one that teaches others to be indifferent. Audience. When we give charity, we usually think of metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. So where is karuna and where is metta? Luangpor. Those are just words for talking. It is not Dhamma. It is social. Audience. If we don't have metta and karuna, how can we have the motive to do good for others? Luangpor. That is the beginning stage, or the foundation for ethics of the world. Audience. In the case of Luangpor, who is trying to help us to be free from dukkha, isn't it the metta of Luangpor? Luangpor. Not metta. Anybody that would like to have Dhamma, just accept it. We don't have gladness or sadness. It is like when we see someone that is drowning, we jump into the water and help them without thinking anything. Audience. When that person sees someone drowning and helps immediately, is it the result of social ethics or is it their own nature? Luangpor. It is their own nature. But when we try to help other people, we don't see our mind, but the nature of the mind is already there, the indifference is already there, we never come to see it and we try some other way. That is why we don't have real calmness. Visible here and now. Calling to come and see. The Dhamma of an instant. Today I would like to bring to you the truth, as I have heard it from the elders, who passed this truth on from generation to generation. It may be that you've heard it, it may be that you haven't. When listening, please set up the mind to listen, listen with sati, samadhi, panya, awareness, steadiness of mind, knowing. Consider these words, and find their actuality at last. In everything that happens there must be cause and effect. For example, the cause is that we go to work, the effect is that we earn money, the cause is that we go to study, the effect is that we gain knowledge. So the knowledge is the result of the study. Therefore the cause is to be diligent and the effect will be truly useful. The elders used to teach that the cause is developing sati, awareness, the result is the knowledge that arises. They have said so. Whether or not the Buddha talks in this way, or whether or not your parents and teachers talked in this way, make the experiment, and discover for yourself whether it is true or not. We have to consider and to really know it. The cause is called the developing of sati, the truth is called sajja. Whether or not we know it, it is still there, like something beneath an overturned bowl, we right the bowl, and what was concealed is revealed. Or it is like opening up what was closed. You should try it, and see for yourself whether it is like this or not. You can sit with legs tucked back to one side, sit with legs outstretched, sit on a chair, or sit in half lotus. Rest your hand on your thigh. Now turn the hand up onto its edge, having awareness of doing it. Turning the hand is the cause, the awareness of doing it is the effect. Turn the hand back down, having awareness of it. The cause is turning the hand down, the effect is the awareness that coincides with the movement. Turn the hand up, being aware of the movement. Turn the hand back down, being aware of the movement in the movement. The cause is turning the hand up and being aware of it and turning the hand down and being aware of it, the effect is that the knowing will accumulate. So when you are doing this, are in the rhythm of it, developing sati, you can say it is the same as the Buddha's teaching, the same as the elders' teaching. You should develop sati. When you develop sati, panya will arise. The elders used to tell us that Buddha taught the four satipatthana, the bases of awareness, or the four major postures, which are standing, walking, sitting and lying down. You have sati in these postures, then you have the sati to know other, minor movements. In all minor movements, stretching, bending, and all other movements, have the sati to know it. The effect will be the knowledge that arises. Some people may say that this accords with the texts, some may say that this does not accord with the texts, but please listen, and try to practice yourself. If it is useful we use it. If it is useless we cast it away. The knowledge that we have learned, we know it already, but the knowledge we have never heard, please try it and find it for yourself. This is a practice I have done. Sit comfortably, back erect, hands palm down upon the thighs. Now turn the right hand up onto its edge, being aware of the movement. Then raise the hand straight up to chest height, being aware of the movement. Then bring the hand down to rest on the abdomen, being aware of the movement. Now repeat these three movements with the left hand. Then, having sati in each movement, move the right hand up the chest, then swing it out to above the right leg, then lower it to rest on the thigh, and then turn the hand back down again. And now repeat these four movements with the left hand. This is rhythmic practice. It is called the minor movements. Humans cannot stay still, so we find some work for the body to do and then use the sati to be with the movement. You can call it sati or you can call it samadhi. The feeling is called sati, samadhi is setting up the mind. When you do it, have awareness of it. If you don't set up the mind, then you will not know. When you blink you know it. We blink since our birth from our mother's womb, but we don't know it. When we look to the left or look to the right, we don't know it. We don't have sati, samadhi. We have only the usual sati samadhi but we don't set up the mind to know it. If we set up the mind to know it, the sati will be newly built sati. Samadhi is setting up the mind. We breathe since we were born from our mother's womb, but we don't know it. Now we set up the mind, and breathe in and out, then we know it. When thought arises, then we know it. The knowing is caused by the developing of sati. So I would like all of you to take this teaching and use it. Ordained, all right, not ordained, all right, believe any religion, all right, wear any uniform, all right, keep the precepts, alright, don't keep the precepts, alright, give a lot of charity, alright, don't give any charity at all, alright. If you don't develop sati, then you will not know, even though you make merit, keep the precepts or practice a lot of calmness meditation. The knowing will arise because of the developing of sati. When we have more and more awareness, then the unawareness, which is moha, or delusion, will fade away. When we have more and more sati, more and more samadhi, panya will arise. This is called panya parami, the perfection of wisdom. I do not talk according to the texts, panya is already there, parami means the readiness to know, if we practice in the right way. If we practice in the wrong way, then we will not know. Now if we know the real thing, not knowing outside ourself. We know within ourself. We know ourself. Sitting here we know ourself to be Rup Nam, body, mind. Turning the hand up is Rup Nam, turning the hand down is Rup Nam, continuing turning the hand up and down is Rup Nam. This is knowing Rup Nam. Then we know the action of Rup Nam. When Rup acts, Nam acts simultaneously. When Rup Nam acts we know it. We know it because of the developing of sati. Panya arises because of the developing of sati. We know Rup disease Nam disease. This born Rup has disease, like headache, stomachache, fever, and so on. Another kind of Rup disease Nam disease, thought is Nam, but when it thinks it is the Rup. When some people talk and that makes us satisfied or dissatisfied, our mind has disease. Really know this thing. The developing of sati is cause, the arising of panya is effect. After knowing Rup Nam, we come to know dukkang, anajang, anatta, suffering, impermanence, not self. People have taught that dukkang, anajang, anatta, is white hair, wrinkled skin, broken teeth. That is true, but not true according to the developing of sati. The developing of sati will cause panya to arise, that turning the hand up is dukkang, lowering it is dukkang. Dukkang is with the Rup. Rup is a kind of lump of dukkha. Dukkang is unbearable. Anajang is unstable. Anatta is uncontrollable. It is like that all the time. If we know it, it is like that. If we don't know it, it is also like that. So Dhamma, which makes a person become a Buddha, is there before the Buddha. Dhamma exists in everybody. It depends on the owner of each body to make this knowing happen. If we are able to know it, then we will know it. It is like the overturned bowl, whether it is overturned or set aright is up to us. Now we come to know sammuti, supposition. Know all kinds of samyati completely. We know that money is just a kind of metal, just a kind of paper, but we conventionalize it. Woman and man are samyati as well. When we don't know it, we suppose it to be woman and suppose it to be man. But if we don't suppose it, then we don't know them. Ordination and disrobing, monk and novice, all are samyati, just take a piece of cloth to wear. The knowing is sati, samadhi, panya, and saja is truth. If it is true by samyati we know it. If it is true by paramattha, direct contact by the mind, we know it. Ghosts and deities are all sammuti. Have we ever seen them? A ghost is a person who acts, speaks, or thinks evil. The body doesn't do anything, it is Rup, like a doll. The thing that moves is the mind. Deities are the same, we suppose them. When we don't really know samyati, we don't know. We really don't know. I can guarantee that we don't know. I myself didn't know. But others may have, I don't know. I have done many kinds of meditation, like Buddho, Samarahang, counting breaths, the rise and fall of the abdomen, and sitting and observing the breath, but I really didn't know, the knowing didn't come, didn't arise. It led to calmness and attachment to calmness. So calmness, or samatthakamatthana, the working ground for tranquility, is like putting a rock on top of weeds. When we take the rock off, the weeds will grow better than before, because the soil has been kept moist. Vipassana means clear insight, a complete uprooting. This is the real knowing. Anyone that does it will know it. Anyone that was born as a human being can do it, regardless of race, language, or religion. But we have to understand the correct method. Also, we know sasana, religion. Sasana doesn't mean temples. The temple is just the supposed sasana. This is called samyati paniyati, convention of supposing. Paramatha is the real thing, which exists in humans. Everyone is sasana. They say that sasana is teaching, they teach and the ear hears, then sati, samadhi, panya considers it, and becomes knowing. Really know that, oh, everyone is sasana. To destroy sasana doesn't mean to destroy temples or Buddha images, or Bodhi trees. To destroy sasana means to say bad things to people, to hit people, to kill people, which is great evil. So sasana is humanity. To curse someone is to curse sasana, to injure someone is to injure sasana, that is what evil is. Now Buddha sasana, Buddhism. Buddha means, one that knows. The body is like a doll. Sati, samadhi, panya is the knowing. So Buddha means sati, samadhi, panya, or the mind that is clean, illuminated and calm, which exists in everybody without exception. Now we talk about papa, sin. Papa is not knowing, darkness, stupidity. We fear papa, but why don't we make ourselves realize, so that we will be free of that fear? Panya, merit, is knowing clearly. People, when they come too close to monks, they fear papa. It is as if monks are the papa itself. That is just samyati. Now we don't have to fear papa. If we cannot conquer papa, then we will have no chance and no time to conquer it. Don't fear papa, but try to conquer papa. This doesn't concern making merit, keeping precepts, or vinaya, the code monastic discipline. The developing of sati is dhamma, is vinaya, is sila, normality, and is everything. We know all this because we develop sati. If we do not develop sati, but just study, that is only to memorize, not to see clearly or to see really. The developing of sati is to know clearly, to know really. When one knows, one can assure oneself and others. Anyone that does it will know it, because everyone knows the same thing. The knowledge is the shared object of developing sati. The result of developing sati can end dukkha. We don't attach to samyati, we will not fear ghosts, we will not fear deities. We don't attach to any samyati at all, because anything that does not exist we don't have to fear. Ghosts and deities have no real existence, just samyati. A ghost is somebody who speaks, thinks, or does evil. A deity is one that speaks good, thinks good, or does good. We know how to be human. Ghosts arise in people while they speak, think, or do evil. When anger arises, and we can stop anger, that is human. When we can make our mind calm and clean all the time, that is deity, a mind worthy of respect. When we know like this, we can break through. So Vipassana has this object, the 6 sense bases, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, the 5 aggregates, that is from the texts, the 12 bases, the 18 elements, the 22 faculties, the 4 noble truths, and the 12 patijjasamuppada, dependent co-arising. We learn from the texts, we study it, but we don't know it. We just know from memory. When we come to develop sati, the knowing will arise, that is the real thing. When we use sati to watch thought, whenever thought arises we know it, because when we move we have sati. Thought has no real self. When thought arises we have sati and know it, like a cat watching a rat. When the rat emerges, the cat catches it immediately. This is the same. When we have sati in each movement, when thought arises we know it, see it, and understand it. This means that we can untie it and conquer it. The elders said that to conquer others 100 or 1000 times has not the benefit of conquering oneself just one time. To conquer oneself is to conquer thought. When thought arises we see it and know it. Then it cannot proliferate. Whenever thought arises we know it. When we develop more and more sati, there will arise jnana panya, knowledge arising from full awareness, knowing, to know clearly, to know really.
May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease.